As we rapidly approach the end of Fazbear Frights, today we're covering the second story in the final book of the series called Kids at Play. And this one is just insane. In this story we come across a character named Joel. Now Joel is not the greatest character. He's kind of unlikable. He reminds me a bit of Matt from In the Flesh. And Joel's whole deal is he's working for his family's garden center, the one that his dad owns. But he kind of doesn't really like it all that much, and he doesn't really like his parents in general all that much. He finds they're a bit overbearing. One day he's just a bit too snarky, and his dad just decides to fire him on the spot. He's driving home, and he's fuming, and he drives over this little figure. It's like this construction worker, but it's like a child, and it's wearing, like a hard hat, I believe. And it says "Kids at Play" on a little sign it's holding. It reminds me of Lucky Boy from Sergio's Lucky Day, another story in the series that you might remember, but this one might be even more sinister. Now, the part that I didn't notice as I was reading the story, but as I'm reading the summary on the wiki page here to kind of refresh my memory, what I'm seeing is it mentions that he drives past a strange brown sludge puddle by this figure's feet. I don't know what that is, but considering the end of the story, it's an interesting little detail, which we'll have to talk about in a second. Now, the next day, Joel is at home, and he's now jobless, and what he really wants to do is he wants to be in this band with his friends. He wants to be, I think he's the drummer, but his parents just really are not the biggest fans of that idea, and so they would rather he work with the business. But since he hasn't been cooperating, he's now fired, and as he's sitting at the table at home and he's eating breakfast, he's eating Fazbear Faz Crunch. So there's our obligatory FNAF reference for the story, and now we won't mention FNAF at all for the rest of the story. And it has those toys at the bottom of the box that you used to see that don't seem too common anymore. And the toy in this box is the exact same figure that Joel saw on his way back from work. The Kids at Play figure. It's carrying the same sign, it's dressed the same way. Only the thing is, on the road it was meant to tell people to slow down because there were kids playing, so I'm not sure what the point of this one is since it's in a literal cereal box, but okay. Now Joel is going about his day, and he's, going about his jobless day. And as the sky is kind of getting dark outside, he runs over a small child. Wouldn't it be crazy if this was the same kid from Friendly Face? In the end of that story, our main character, Edward, got run over by a truck. And wouldn't it be crazy if this was the exact same kid, and it's all connected or something? That would be interesting. Or it's Pete from Step Closer, although I believe both of those characters were hit by semis, so probably not, but it's an interesting idea. So Joel is obviously freaking out because he just ran over a child, and so he's trying to really quickly make it home so no one knows that he just did this awful thing. Now the next day, Joel awakens to see even more Kids at Play figures all over the neighborhood. This just kind of seems like a way to kind of up the stress of the situation. I don't know why these figures are all over the place now, but I guess they are. He tries to kind of distract himself from the situation by going out to get the donuts that his dad and him always get. I believe it's a certain day of the week. They get donuts for the business, so the customers, I guess, get donuts when they come in to buy something. Which, that's a cool gesture. I like that. Also gets your customers to buy more stuff, I guess, so that's a plus. But the woman who owns this donut bakery thing, Sally, is kind of distressed. She's not seeming her normal self, and I figured out why this is pretty much right away. It's because her grandson has gone missing. I wonder who that is. There's already a police officer on the case too, Police Chief Montgomery, not to be confused with Montgomery Gator, I think. And Joel and his dad immediately, because they're kind of friends with Sally in a way, they know each other, they decide, okay, you know what? We're going to help find your grandson. Only problem is, obviously, Joel knows exactly where her grandson is, because he never told anyone about this hit and run that happened literally the day before. So he's very freaked out. They spend the whole day looking for this kid, but the thing is, they never find him. They're looking all day. He's just nowhere to be found because no one checks the neighborhood where Joel ran him over. And so that's Joel's day, and he goes to sleep just as freaked out as in the morning that someone is going to find out what happened to this kid, and then he's going to be in trouble. He's kind of only thinking about himself, in a way. The next day, he wakes up, and something is not right. His limbs feel very stiff, which is probably not normal. And it doesn't seem like he has control over his body. He's moved by an outside force that doesn't seem to be him. It seems to be something more sinister. What happens is he ends up back at the place where the kid was last seen for some reason. We don't know who's taking him here. We don't know why he's coming back to this location. And we also don't know why immediately after Joel turns to dust. His eyes fall out, his nose falls off, so do his ears. He's crumbling, his skin starts peeling off, and he just becomes dust. And I don't know why, but that's kind of what happens in the story. So, okay. This is where things get very interesting. So, Officer Montgomery is searching around the area where Joel and this kid were. And he sees a Kids at Play sign where we kind of get a bit more backstory about what these signs are. Basically, Fazbear Entertainment made these signs to keep kids safe on the road. It's kind of like, it's telling you, hey, there's kids at play, drive slowly because you don't want to run over someone. That would be probably bad. The weird thing is, this one is bigger and oddly contorted, is what it says. Also never really explained why that is, but okay. He also sees this pile of dust that we know used to be Joel. Doesn't think much of it. And after hearing a whisper, he finds the kid. He finds this kid, Caleb, who went missing, and he calls the police, everyone else, he calls an ambulance, I believe, and he tells the kid, you know, everything's gonna be alright, everything's okay, because the kid, as it turns out, is alive. And that's kind of the end of the story. So, I'm not going to dwell on the same stuff I always dwell on with these videos. I'm not going to repeat myself like I always do and mention how it doesn't feel very FNAF related. What I am going to say is this story is very strange because there's a lot of elements that don't quite make sense. And I think the biggest one of those is the fact that this, at the end, the figure seems different than the normal Kids at Play figures. Like, it's contorted. I don't know if that's supposed to be Joel and he's like became the figure or something. I don't know why he turned to mulch. I don't know what caused him to go out there. I don't know what the Kids at Play figure has to do with any of what happened to him. Just a lot of unanswered questions that is kind of becoming normal with this series, but not in a good, like, ooh, we have to solve the lore and figure out why these things happen kind of way. More so in a kind of, what? Kind of way. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. So, overall, I do think that this is a little worse than Prankster, the last one we covered. I liked that one better, actually. I thought it was more interesting and a more unique concept, more likable characters. You get more interested in what happens to them. The ending was a bit less good, but it was also interesting. This one I actually like a little less, which is, I know, crazy because I say I don't really like most of these stories very much. I find that a lot of them have jumped the shark. Ironic because the last book of the series is a shark. Has someone made that joke yet? I don't know. The last story of this book, I will say, as I said in the video before this, Find Player 2 is pretty good. It's a pretty good creepy story, and I think you guys are going to like it as much as I did, if not more. So we will have to get to that. For this story, I will just say it feels like traditional, typical Fazbear Frights at this point. Late series Fazbear Frights. The first 5 books were great. Everything after that is kind of just strange. But the last story, I feel like, is kind of one last return to form before the series is brutally stabbed and murdered, with its last dying cry for help being the 12th book that's coming out next month in December. And then Tales of the Pizzaplex, which is, of course, the series becoming a robot animatronic and coming back to life. That's kind of how this series has progressed. Fazbear Frights is its, like, normal, it's alive and thriving, then it gets stabbed and it slowly dies, and Tales from the Pizzaplex is when it comes back as a furry animatronic. Can't wait for Tales from the Pizzaplex. I'll see you guys in one last little story summary, and then we'll talk about the Stitch Wraith as well. We'll get to all that soon, but I need to stop. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.